Thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Bridget, the dating doula, and she is going to give us our entire life as it pertains to online dating. So, Bridget, thank you so much for just giving us, and I already know there's going to be a lot of tea that's going to be spilled. And so I'm just so happy that you're here and I get a chance to talk with you.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me on the podcast, Anwar. I don't know about how much tea is going to be spilled, but
Ton
let's
of
see.
it. Okay, she's a humble tea server, but yes, we're gonna spill tons of tea, and I'm just like really excited because obviously we are in this pandemic and a lot of people are going on these online apps and everything, and so I think it's going to be really important, all of the information that you're going to give all of my listeners.
Mhm.
But before we get into that, why don't you talk a little bit about your business, what you do, who you serve, and how you got into it?
Okay, so like was mentioned before, my name is Bridget, and I run a company called The Dating Doula. And so essentially, what I describe myself as sort of like an online dating concierge, right? And so the work that I do mostly involves like copywriting dating profiles, either from scratch or helping people to kind of edit their dating profiles and their photos as well to make them a little bit more interesting and to attract the people that they want. I also do sort of like online dating strategy for folks who are like comfortable with using the apps but may not be meeting the right people or keep meeting the wrong people to sort of kind of hone in on what some of their issues might be. And then my full service sort of VIP package is called the Dating Doula, and with that one I basically online date for you as you for 30 to 90 days, and it includes pretty much all the rest of the services in terms of the dating strategy as well as writing your dating profile from scratch. So that's a general sort of idea of what I do. In terms of who I serve, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a Black woman. And
Yes, you are. You are a Black queen, girl, and I'm living. And I just want to let my listeners know she has a slight gap in
yep.
her teeth, just like all of the women in my family, which means royalty in
Oh,
Africa.
yes, it
And
does.
so I am like so happy to be in the presence of some royalty, girl. But yes, you
Oh
are
my
very
gosh.
Black, and I am very happy about it.
So like, and I think anybody who pays attention or who is a Black person on a dating app knows that like online dating as a Black person, it comes with its own specific unique challenges, right?
And
Like
specifically a Black
people's
woman, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, people's prejudices aren't checked at the login page of a dating app, unfortunately. And so, when I started my business, like I was really sort of focused on supporting single Black women to just basically have better online dating experiences and to also
Yeah.
sort of be able to strategize and have more fun dating. I work with everyone, so I'm like one of these people where if you're 21 and older, you're single, whatever your sexual orientation or gender identity, I will work with you. But my focus, and you'll see that a lot if you take a look at my social media, is Black women and women of color for the most part. But I
And
serve
get on
like
that
everyone.
social media, y'all, because it is hilarious and fun. And like sometimes you see it's just like such entertaining content. So
Thank
definitely
you.
get on that, get on that social media. It's interesting when you were first talking, you were talking about an like online dating strategy, which I don't think
Yeah.
people would really ever think about, right? They think about
Hmm.
business strategy or marketing
Yep.
strategy or whatever, but they would never think about online dating strategy. So I think it's just a really interesting concept. Could you speak more to like what that kind of looks like and how people should really be thinking about that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues that I think that people have that I had in the past, and this is kind of what led me to realize that this was a service that was needed, is that a lot of people like use dating apps without any sort of like real strategy, right? But in the same
Mm-hmm.
way, like dating apps are so ubiquitous now that there's like character types that you will find on every single type of dating app, right? And
Yeah.
so often people are kind of like, oh, I'd like to date or I'd like to meet new people or I just want to see who's around. And then they hop on a dating app and then usually they kind of just go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, right? But if you're just looking to hook up or if you're just looking to kind of do something super casual, no big deal. But if you're looking strategically to try to meet somebody for something long term, you do have to be strategic because there are a lot of time wasters on dating apps, right? And so
Yes.
like I'm one of those people where like I think it's important to approach online dating with a strategy, and also without being too heavy-handed or too serious. You know what I mean? It's like have
Mm-hmm.
fun, but enter with a strategy and like understand what it is that you're on there for, and then like refine like crazy until you meet people who kind of align there. So I do think it is important for people, I think women especially, Black women especially, to be strategic about how
Yes.
they use dating apps, essentially.
Very much that. In my program with my clients, I call it the funnel, and it's a
Yeah.
framework and a strategy that they need to follow to make sure that the cream of the crop is the time in which, or the people that they're actually engaging with, and not
Yeah.
all of the everything else that's out there,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Um, so, obviously we're very much in a similar business. So I'm probably sure that you hear this a lot. There are a lot of women out there that are nervous or hesitant about going online and online dating and things like that. What do you have to say to them? What do you usually say to the people or your clients that have that kind of hesitancy?
Well, I would say so. Again, I find that it tends to be women like over, I would say 40 to, let's say, the 60 bracket, who are a little bit
Mhm.
more nervous about online dating because they've heard all sorts of horror stories
Right.
and everything like that. And I would say, like, there's nothing wrong with going outside of your comfort zone, right? Like, and I think also people need to be aware that like different dating apps serve different dating purposes, right? So if you're like
Yes.
very precautious, I wouldn't recommend like a high traffic swiping hookup app like Tinder.
Yeah,
You know
girl,
what
we're
I mean?
not
You
we're
might
not we're not putting my
no,
50-year-old Karen on Tinder to
no,
get
we're
her
not doing
life.
that.
Yes.
Exactly. So like, just be mindful of the fact that like not all dating apps are created equal. Not all of them have the same experience. Not all of them have like the same numbers of people even, there's like
Yeah.
paid ones, there's free ones, and the experience can be very different on both of those. Um I would say, like I think maybe before the pandemic, it would have been like, okay, okay, I guess if you're concerned and you prefer meeting people in person, then let's go do it in person.
Right.
But in the time of this, like of COVID, like you do have to try and venture out a little bit. But I would say do your research, or better yet, talk to someone like me and you who's sort of well versed in the world of online dating to get sort of like really good advice about what dating apps might best suit your needs and things like that. But honestly, like I dating apps aren't going away,
No,
like,
they're
and
not.
coronavirus isn't going away anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
if you've been scared historically, I would say venture out, do something a little outside your comfort zone. And if you need support, like people like you or I are there to support.
Yeah, definitely. Or also continue listening to this podcast episode because we're going to be giving
Absolutely.
you so much tea here.
Yeah.
Trust. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about some of the mind shifts that I think are important when it comes to kind of online dating and getting one prepared to online date, right? I don't think you just kind of fall into it, right? I do think it's important to prepare yourself. So talk to
Mhm.
me about how one should be thinking about, being out on the apps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one strategy that I think is really important, and I know like your audience is mostly like Black women. So I'll speak to sort of an approach that I often notice like my Black women clients taking to online dating. And I think women in general take to online dating, where like I feel like, especially maybe when you're like a little younger, a little bit new to it, dating is about like exploration, and it's as much about learning about yourself as it is about trying to
Yes,
find like another partner, right? But a
that's
lot of
right.
the time, like people, very much so, people go onto dating apps with the expectation like, oh, I'm going to find Prince Charming, I'm going to find my husband or wife, or you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
whatever your flavor is. And they forget about the fact that like it's also about meeting new people, connecting with people,
Yeah.
potentially going on fun dates, whether those are virtual dates and things like that. So what I would say is that to prepare to be on dating apps, like it's really, really important that you have a clear understanding of why it is that you're on the app, right? If you're
Hmm.
there looking for a relationship, great, that's fine. If you're there just to be casual, great, that's fine. But be very clear about why you're using the dating app and the type of person that you want to interact with and engage with on the dating app. Also, I would say if you are not the type of person who's good at taking photos, get on Google, listen to this podcast, get good tips on how to take great photos, right? Like
Yeah.
you would be amazed at, and like, so I've worked with clients where their entire profile is basically selfies in the bathroom. And I'm just like, no.
Or also pictures from a variety of different destinations by
Yes,
themselves traveling. I'm like, girl, we have 7 pictures of you in Bali, in Costa
yes,
Rica, in Brazil. Like, we get it. You
yeah,
travel.
yeah.
Good for you, girl.
Absolutely, right? And so I say, like, get prepared. Like, and so what I usually like to tell clients is that, go through some of the pictures that you've taken within the last year or so. And then your favorite photos, try to pick out your favorite photos, ones where you're smiling, ones where you're wearing bright colors and things like that. And then I would also say, like, for like on an ongoing basis, because it's important to update your photos on your dating profile. I
And
always tell my
how often
clients,
should we do that?
I personally do it once a month, and I
Okay.
tell my clients to do it once a month, or even more often. And what I usually tell them to do is, like, whenever they're going out. Obviously, it's a little bit different now, but like, because of the pandemic. But whenever they're going out, or whenever they're going somewhere, and they feel good, they feel like they look good. Take a picture of yourself, or ask somebody else to take a photo of you if that's an option for you as well, right? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I say. I say bank, like, based on the on because like when you actually feel good and you feel like you look good, it like radiates, it shows, right? And
Yes.
so on the days where you're feeling really good, make sure to take photos of yourself. And I usually advise like a close up, a medium, and then a wide shot if you can get someone to take a full shot of you, and just bank it. I have like clients who literally have like a folder on their phone that just says like online dating, and they just bank like these photos of them at like different points or different events that they've been to, where they're just like, oh, I felt really good today. I felt like I looked really cute. My hair looked really good
Yeah.
today. You know what I mean? And so that's
Mm-hmm.
sort of what I would say. And what I would also say as well is, like, get yourself in a place where you are calm. You know, online dating can be really overwhelming sometimes,
Yes.
depending on what you're looking for and which app that you're using. And I think it's really, really important that before you start online dating, you need to get yourself sort of emotionally centered and calm, and aware of the fact that, like, you know, you're going to be meeting lots of different people. Some of those people are going to be great. So some of them are going to be awful, right? But that's, like, it's not a reflection on you per se.
Right.
um that would happen regardless of whether or not the technology existed, because humans are humans, right? And so just be in a really calm place. And then another thing I would say is be very, very clear about the amount of time you plan to spend on the dating apps. Dating apps are designed like games, right? They're intended to keep you on there and kind of just going and going and going, but that can be very, even though it seems simple, it's very emotionally exhausting to be swiping through people, or like going through tons and tons and tons of profiles and stuff. And so what I would say is, like, be very conscious about, so if you're like, okay, I'm going to download this dating app and I'm going to use it, say to yourself, are you going to use it for 30 days? Are you going to use it for 2 months? Like, are you going to use it? Are you going to swipe every day? How long are you going to be swiping for, and things like that? And be very conscious about the amount of time that you spend. So for me, what I usually tell my clients is that, like 30 minutes max, 30 minutes to 60 minutes every day
Yes.
max at a particular time, right? And then turn it off, basically, right? Like, once you've, like, gone through, send messages, time yourself. Like, I've literally had to do that at times, where I've literally set like a timer on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm going to
Definitely.
go through, I'm going to send my messages, etc., etc. And then after that, it's like, okay, I'm done for the day. And then tomorrow I do it again. And then I say to myself, okay, I'm going to online date for a month, every day for 30 minutes or to an hour for a month. And then once the month is over, I'm done. I take a multi-week break. And then I'm like, all right, let's try a new dating app now and go from there. Because it's
Yeah.
really, really important that you're going to burn out otherwise, right? Like, there's
Right.
people who stay on them for months at a time, and then they get jaded. And usually you
And
see
then
those profiles.
all day long. And so
Yes,
then they really start to get, to your point,
yes.
jaded. Yeah.
Yeah, and you burn out, right? So just be really strategic about the time commitment that you're willing to spend, and also the reasons why you're there. And just be mindful about your photos, and make sure that you're capturing photos on the days that you feel good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. So I definitely tell my clients like 15 to 30 minutes in the morning and 15 to 30 minutes in the evening. I
Hmm.
don't want them on the apps all day long, because that also
Absolutely.
signals something different too to the people
Absolutely.
that are on the apps. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost a little bit of a desperation vibe for
Yes,
some,
absolutely.
and you don't
Absolutely.
want to come off as that, right? I want to circle back to the photos because I think it's really important. So you gave us, kind of a body shot, a close-up shot. Can you also explain to me, like, what sort of photos should they be in? Because I'm always telling my clients, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, that, like, when men are online shopping,
Well, kind of.
it is
Kind of.
that. It is the meat market.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if you're wrong. You're not
Right.
wrong.
Online dating, that
Yes.
they're really envisioning, they're looking at these pictures and trying to figure out if they can put themselves in your life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important
Mm-hmm.
to like have one where you're a little bit professional, one when you're home and casual, one when you're
Mm-hmm.
out at the restaurant or at the gym or at the museum or ballet or
Mm-hmm.
whatever you do. So talk to me about like what kind of photos should we be thinking about when it comes to like online profiles?
For me, I agree with you. I think it's really, really important that the photos reflect your actual life, right? So you just
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that like you have clients where all of their profile pictures are them traveling, globetrotting all over the world solo and stuff like that. For most people, that is not your everyday life. You know what I mean? Like I'm a big believer when it comes to online dating photos to show rather than tell, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah, you could tell somebody I love kayaking, or you can take a picture of you like a really good picture of you in a kayak or like you know what I mean, holding a kayak
Yeah,
or whatever, you know what
totally.
I mean? Like I think it's really
Mhm.
important that the photos reflect sort of your everyday life. Like even with my online dating profile, when I'm online dating for myself, I'm like I always include one photo where I'm completely like product makeup free, you know what I mean? Product free, where I'm just like
Yeah.
because and mind you, I know that for some people they're not comfortable doing that. I'm comfortable doing that, right? And
Yeah.
I just because I think my skin looks fine and I don't have products on, but I'm like
Just
product, you
FYI, her
know.
skin is flawless. Thank you.
Yes, a lot of time and effort goes into that, but yeah, the reason is that I want my skin to look good when I don't have product on. So I always include at least one photo where I'm just like product free, you know, just so some people have a good idea of like what they're getting and stuff like that. And for me, like, you know, I love fine dining, I love wine, I also enjoy traveling, but for the most part, like if I'm going to include one, it'll be one travel photo.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I love just like nature and being outdoors. So there's photos of me on nature walks and things like that, right? Like I just think it needs to be an accurate reflection of your life. So I think sometimes too, like obviously people want to present the best version of themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it needs to be realistic. Like fundamentally, you're not going to be traveling, especially now, like all over the world. And so shots
Right.
of you like in exotic places doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like if you play beach volleyball, let's get some beach volleyball shots. If you like to swim, let's get some swimming shots. I agree with you in terms of just like giving people a relatively accurate picture of your life, um that where they can be like, oh, this person looks like they live, you know, like they
Yeah,
live. They're
exactly.
not just like out here kind of like running across globetrotting up every single day of the week or whatever, but they're really sort of like living and having a full life. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I want to talk specifically about black hair in photos
Yes.
because it changes a lot
Yes.
depending on who you are. And so I wanted to get
Yeah.
your thoughts on should Black women be having this a similar hairstyle? Should they have different hairstyles? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm a big believer, like I want freedom for Black women, right? And
Of
that
course.
means like giving them letting them know that it's okay to make whatever decisions they want to make. Me personally, like I love my natural hair. I change my hair very regularly. I always try to have a good mix of different types of like photos of my hair, right? Other people prefer to like, you know, use one single type of photo. I don't really prescribe anything in that regard because I think it's important that you as a woman like present yourself in the way that you feel the most comfortable. But for me personally, if you are a Black woman who does change her hair often, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to show like what you look like in different sort of fashions or aesthetics. You know what I mean? In the same way you
Mhm.
wouldn't necessarily like I wouldn't necessarily put up photos of me in the same all 6 photos in the same outfit, you know, like my hair is like an expression of my, you know, my beauty, my fashion sense, everything like that. And so I'm a big believer in putting up different photos, but I don't prescribe it to people. If you're not comfortable doing that, that's fine. But I love it. I think it looks great. I like, you know, a lot of the clients that I work with who are Black women, most of the time you don't even have to ask them. They'll send you like a bunch of pictures and their hair's different in every single
Yeah,
picture. So you
yeah.
really don't have to worry about that. But I would say, um, I would say try it. Like at least if you let's say for instance you have two sort of pretty dominant hairstyles, try to at least capture, your two or maybe three main hairstyles in your
Yeah.
profile photos, but it's not mandatory.
Yeah, and that's how I think too. And at least that's what I'm telling my clients, that we should focus on your dominant styles, just because
Hmm.
that's going to represent the most of who you're going to be and how you navigate the world for the most part.
Right.
Um, let's switch over to profiles, because I know a
Yeah.
lot of women will just be like, at least the women that I talk to, they're like, I don't know what to put on it. And like, I think most people aren't great at online
Hmm.
profiles. And so that's one of the things that we do as well. Like we
Hmm.
just kind of whip it in shape.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what we should be thinking about as it pertains to our online profile.
So, okay, so I will, and I'm probably gonna get flack for this, right?
Girl, don't worry about the flat girl. Don't worry
Okay,
about it.
so one of the things that I find that women very much often do, and this I'm talking about like heterosexual women,
Uh-huh.
specifically, just to be clear, like they love talking about, oh, I have my, can I swear?
You can do whatever the fuck you
Okay.
want.
Okay. They're like, oh, I have my shit together, so you better have your shit together. I have 15 degrees. I own a house. I have a car. Like, just
Girl,
talking about things where you're just like,
yeah.
madam, none of this is a reflection of your personality. These are like,
Right.
material achievements, right? And things like that. And so that's one of the things that I think is really, and I think I understand why women do that because they want to sort of like communicate the fact that like, hey, I am self-sufficient and I'm independent and I'm financially stable and I want similar things, right? But it's too like,
It's
I'm
too
not saying
much.
it is too much, right? And it's also just like that doesn't speak to your personality. Like like there's lots of really horrible people who have degrees and have homes and like
Right.
have cars and
Yeah.
things like that. It doesn't actually speak to who you are as a person or necessarily what you're looking for. I think it's really, really important that you don't start with like, this is what I do for a living. These are all the things that I have. I think it's super important to be like, I am this type of individual. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who can compliment me, in this sort of way. Like, I think, um, like, heterosexual women have a tendency to really lead with their accomplishments,
Mhm.
and for me, I'm like this is not a resume. It's
Yeah,
a dating
and
profile.
also like guys aren't attracted to that. If that's your goal, like they just want to feel good around you. They
Yeah,
don't care how many
absolutely.
degrees that you have or anything like that. So
Absolutely.
it's working against you, right?
Yeah,
In a lot of
absolutely. And
different
then also
ways.
a degree is not like an indicator of your ability to be a good partner in a relationship. You know what I mean? It's a
Tell
lot
it.
of the really intangible things that make you a good partner. So like I think it's really important that people talk about, like women especially, like just talk about the fact that like, you know, um, like what makes you, if like beyond all the sort of like material achievements and stuff like that, like what makes you who you are, like what is the essence of you, like are you a
Mhm.
kind person, are you somebody who um like is really into sports, are you like, do you know what I mean, like just things that are like what you need to talk about on your profile. Talk about things that you think make you a good partner that are not necessarily tied to like material things and
Yeah.
achievements, right? So I think that's the one thing that I would say for sure. And then also negativity, like I think I told you, like you always know like I see people all the time where I'm just like, madam, get off the app, you need a break. Okay,
Yes. When
where
they're
they're just
like,
like,
don't do this. I hate when
yes,
things, yeah. Oh, girl,
yes,
please.
it's
Yeah.
like, do not swipe on me if you, it's like, whoa.
Right.
I always say to my clients, do not use your dating profile to speak to the people you don't want. You are talking to the person you do want, right? It's like, why in
Yeah.
the world would you be like, oh, if you do not like go to church every like 3 times a week, if you do not do this, if you don't make this much, then don't swipe on me. It's like, how about you just say, I have a really strong faith and I would love it if my partner
Right.
could go would have some sort of spiritual practice and be willing to learn about my faith, as well as, you know what I mean? Like, why do you, like, to me, it's like, do not speak to the people you don't want. You don't
Right.
want them. Talk to the person you want.
Exactly. But also, like, nobody owes you anything.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you don't know
Yeah,
any of these people to be telling them what they can or cannot do. I think it speaks to a lot of
absolutely.
greater things too about learning how to accept oneself and accept other people, which I think is very important when it comes to dating and a relationship. I wanted to
Absolutely.
talk about this notion of like you were talking about, figure out what your essence is. And one of the things that I do with my clients is I have them answer the questions, and you can do this, listeners at home. What makes you special? What makes you
Mm-hmm.
unique? And what makes
Mm-hmm.
you confident? And then
That's great.
I generally say, okay, now ask two of your girlfriends and two of your guy friends that same question about you. Because women
Mm.
will see you differently than men will see you
Yes,
differently.
absolutely. Yeah.
Incorporate all of those things into your profile. Because the one thing that I also do hate on profiles is when everybody is like, I da 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 da. I da 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 da. I da 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 da. It also signals like, girl, you kind of all about yourself. So
Yes,
you like
absolutely.
want to switch it up and say, my friends say that I'm this, or I've been known to, or
Mm-hmm.
people say
Mm-hmm.
this, just
Yeah.
so
Or
that
I'm
it
known
like,
for. Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
just to break it up, because ultimately, like, you're signaling like it's all about me, and nobody wants to hear
Yeah.
that, right? What are
Absolutely.
your thoughts?
Absolutely. I love that. I think those are fantastic questions. The confidence one is so good. Like that's a great question. I think like I completely agree. I think it is really important like for you to think about and here's the thing, like sometimes with online dating, like, some there's a lot of people who um, have a vision or an idea of who they are, right? And sometimes it's not entirely accurate. So the idea of like getting feedback
Facts.
from other people, or even feedback from folks like you and I, who see tons of dating profiles and work with lots of different types of people, like it's really important for you to sort of be able to get feedback from other folks to be like, hey, really aggressive, or
Right.
you haven't talked at all about what you're looking for. You're just talking about like how amazing you are and how awesome your life is. It's like, oh, okay, so I do think it is really important, like, to get sort of that outside feedback from people who love you and who
Mm-hmm.
want to see you succeed, but then who love you enough to be able to be like,
Tell you the truth.
hey, this is not good. I wouldn't
Yeah.
add this. Or hey, you forgot to include this. Like you make amazing care packages. You know what I mean? Like you should tell them that I'm known for making awesome care packages, or I'm known for
Yes.
making awesome cocktails at a party, or do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like just really sort of figuring out what makes you special to yourself as well as to the people around you, and then being able to sort of to surface that in your dating profile again, versus the like, I have this and I've accomplished this and I have 10 degrees, like,
That's
like
exactly
it's
what
like
happens, because
10
the
degrees won't
women
hug you.
usually, yeah, exactly. The women usually talk about those stuff, and
Yeah.
then when they ask their friends, they talk about how sweet they are, and all
Yes.
it's always this
Yep.
huge contrast. And so it's
Yeah,
just like a really
absolutely.
interesting exercise to
Yeah, I
understand
love
how
that.
people are like seeing you.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. Those are such great questions.
the other thing that I think is really important on a profile is also to like engage the reader. So I
Hmm.
have some of my clients also like talk about themselves, but like ask the person who's reading the profile about like what they're talking about. So for
Hmm.
example, if you love to go to wine bars and brunch places and karaoke places, then I want you to on your profiles to be asking like, what are your favorite places to go to
Mm.
give the reader something to grasp
Grab
onto to
onto.
answer,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. I
Talk to me a
completely
little bit
agree.
about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I think for me, and this doesn't work with all of my clients because some of them are a little bit more homebody than
Yeah.
and have like some more sort of home-based interests. But for the ones who are a little bit more adventurous, I'm always like, okay, so like so for instance, one of the questions that I ask my clients is like, are there any sort of activities or hobbies or things that you don't currently do that you would like that you want to do, right? Any sort of hobbies that you'd like to take up, or would want to take up with the partner and things like that, and then
Yes.
like phrase a question around that. So for a perfect example, I had a client whose goal was to run like I think it was a 5 or a 10K. And I basically like advised her to, ask a question like, I'm getting ready to like run a five, I want to get ready to run a 5K next year. Any tips? Question mark. Do you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And leaving that sort of open-ended option for people to engage, right? And to be quite honest with you, like, and I remember she came back to me and she was like, the men who answered that question, it like it showed her that they'd read the profile, right? And then B,
Mm-hmm.
she was able to sort of weed out the men who were just kind of like mansplaining her, and then the other ones who were like, oh yeah, I'm actually I'm trying to like run a 5K and 10K too. Like this is what I've tried. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were able
Yeah.
to sort of like, it gives them like a soft place to sort of enter into the conversation. So
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think that's really important.
I love that. Okay, girl, I would not be doing my job if we did not talk about the good apps, the bad apps, the ugly apps,
Yep.
because I think
Yep.
everybody wants to hear about that. So
Yep.
talk to me about the apps that you absolutely love.
So, okay. So
And then also
I
in general, and then give me the Black woman lens, girl. Because it's
okay.
it's a different
Yep.
world.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's a different world.
Yeah. Ah, like Madame Aretha told us. Anyways,
Yes.
so okay, so one of the apps that I really like, and again, it depends on which city that you are in, because obviously not all
Yes.
apps are popular in all cities. So I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and Hinge is a very popular app here. And I
Mhm.
find I really like Hinge. So I work in my sort of regular, day job. I work in tech, and I love Hinge for a couple of reasons. Number one, very simple, very clean, easy to
Yes.
use, large text, and really clear about how to create a profile and things like that. And then also gives you a little bit of control, even in the free option, about to be able to sort of refine what it is that you're looking for and set locations and things like that. And I find that when it comes to, and because again, like, I am open to dating people of all like backgrounds, right? Like I want love. So I'm like, even on my profile, I'll say things like, I date men of all backgrounds and like physicalities who date all women of backgrounds, different backgrounds and physicalities, right? And so for
Right.
me, I find that the diversity and the range of men on Hinge is much better, right? Now, as a Black woman, I have lots of Black female clients who will be like, I want to be with a Black man. In Toronto, Hinge is much better in terms of the availability of Black men than some of the other dating apps. So that's like one of my, I would say, my top favorite for just in general, and then also for specifically like a single Black woman who dates men who wants to meet more other men.
Hmm.
So in my city as well, Bumble is really good, but I gotta tell you, if you are looking for like racial diversity on Bumble, not great. It's just a very I didn't love my Bumble experience. It felt I remember I'd posted something on my social media where I basically was like Bumble felt like a digital Abercrombie and Fitch store, like where it
Hmm.
was just like, okay, this is very, you know, it was just very, white and preppy. And like, I just was like, there's not a lot of like diversity here in terms of the types
Yeah,
of men that I'd be interested in. And so I like, and also too, I find that like, and I don't know, like you can tell me what you think about this.
of course.
I find that Bumble has really, because Bumble's approach is that the women should message first, there's
Yeah.
been like a weird, like almost like a laziness that has set in with men across all dating apps where they don't message first. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like even if they're not on Bumble, sometimes they don't message first, where you're just like hello, engage with me, right? There's like kind of this
Yeah.
like expectation and things like that. Um,
Well,
so
I'm like a huge I'm like anti-Bumble.
are you?
Yeah, I don't like it because of that fact
Yeah.
that the men that are on there are generally lazier,
Yep.
are generally
Absolutely.
more entitled, and generally have more narcissistic and or toxic traits,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
and might be a little bit more insecure than your average guy on your average app, right?
Yeah.
And the way
Absolutely.
that I want the women that I work with to date is I want them to see and have the investment of the person first and foremost, and then figure out if they want to match with them.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Bumble is like not
Yeah. And we
that.
also know that, like, if you look at some of the data from Bumble, a lot of men, because the women have to message first, there's a lot of men who will literally swipe right on absolutely every single profile,
All
right?
profiles.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I'm with you. I think like if you are a, a
If you
petite
are a
white woman,
white girl
yes.
that's 23 years old,
Yep. Yep. I would say anything under
work
30, Bumble is
work
amazing.
Bumble,
Yes,
work. Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. If you are like not petite, not white, not under the age of 30, I just don't, it's not great, right? And so I
Well,
think,
I want to say this too, because I have had, I want to say, curvier clients that have felt more empowered working through Bumble and just and
mhm,
getting that practice. And so sometimes what
yes,
I like to do is like, girl, let's go on Bumble for a couple of weeks. Like, let's shoot your shot, knowing that there's like, this is nothing. Like, we're just
yeah,
practicing the act of
yes,
doing that and showing up. And
yeah,
like, I think it's a great like space for that to be able
yes,
to practice that without understanding or wanting any sort of expectation.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
when we're used to doing it and it's like nothing, okay, girl, let's go back to where we want to go. And then
Yes.
let's see the people come in, but let's also shoot our shot and let's also engage in these
Yeah.
other platforms.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. I think like I never discourage people from using it. I just want to make sure that I level set and I manage my clients' expectations, right? If they in terms of just the demographic that they're generally going to find on Bumble, right? Like I've used
Yeah.
Bumble lots of different times and lots of different scenarios for myself and for other people, and I just find that consistently it's the same sort of like challenge. There's not enough diversity, very young, again, very lazy
Girl.
and very entitled men, you know, in terms of just like the way that they engage. So the next dating app that I want to highlight, and again, this one depends on where you live. Again, OkCupid is like one of those one of the you know long time original free sort of like dating apps that's been around for a really long time. And so I think OkCupid is decent for much older people, but you have to be very, very clear about what you're looking for and set good parameters, right? Especially if you're going to be using sort of like the free version. I don't mind it because, again, I find the diversity is actually pretty good. I find that it does tend to skew a little bit older for women who want older men,
Mhm.
or older women too, older partners in general. And it's been around long enough that like a lot, I actually know quite a few couples in real life who have met through OkCupid. And so that's another one. I would say in terms of just like my faves, I would say Hinge would certainly be my number one.
Uh-huh.
Next, for like an older demographic, I would say if you want free, OkCupid. So Match used to be one of the ones that I really liked, but I find that like with the sort of flooding of like free dating apps, Match is not what it used to be in terms of the options available for people, right? So it's slower, which for some folks is really great, but the numbers, there's less numbers on Match as well. But I do like it as one of the
Well,
paid
I do want to say
original
this really
options.
quickly
Yeah.
because I think Match in Canada is different than Match in the
Yes. Oh,
US.
absolutely.
And so I'm
Absolutely.
saying that because the numbers of Match in the US are huge, but in
Huge.
Canada are super low, right? So
Absolutely.
again, it depends regionally because for me,
Exactly.
Match is number one, Hinge
Yeah.
is number two, and OkCupid is number three because
Yeah.
you get everybody under the sun in US
Yep.
Match,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
So
depends geographically. Yeah.
absolutely. So I would definitely say if you are in Canada, I would not recommend Match.com. But if you are a Canadian single who likes, let's say you're looking for an American man, Match in the US is excellent. To be quite honest with you, every dating app in the US is better than it is in Canada. Like they're
Yeah.
just there's just more numbers there. So yeah, absolutely. So I would say, but I do like Match. I do find that there is a different and mind you, not to say that it's perfect. You are still going to meet people who, you know, are not there for the same reasons that you're there. But like I do find that people who are willing to pay for the service, right, are a little sometimes a
Yes.
little bit more serious, more
More
intentional,
serious for
or
sure.
like yeah, in terms of just like the online dating. So that's
Yeah.
what I would say. But again, it is super super important that you think about where you are regionally. So I know like in the UK, I believe that Tinder is like really, really popular like across the
Hmm.
UK, right? And so Tinder's like one of the apps that a lot of people use here in Toronto. If especially if you're like you know a Black woman and you're over the age of 30, no, you know
No,
I wouldn't
ma'am. No, ma'am,
advise.
Pam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't
I'd be
do it,
like
girl.
I don't know about that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Yeah.
that. And in terms of just like my absolutely no go zones when it comes to dating apps, I'm sorry, Plenty of Fish is the sewer of dating
Yeah.
apps. It is
Yeah.
truly awful. Like, you know, and it's so funny because I actually have about two really good friends who met their husbands on Plenty of Fish, but that was like almost like I would say anywhere between 6 to 10 years ago, right? And it was bad then. It's even worse now. So I'd like those are the ones where I always say to my clients, like, absolutely not, you
Yeah.
know? And then I would say also Tinder, like, so again, that depends on what my clients are looking for. If they just want something like really casual, they want an opportunity to date lots of different people,
Yeah.
you know, sort of kind of, they're not looking for something necessarily like a little bit more serious or, you know, long term, then sure, Tinder is great, but it's not, I wouldn't recommend it. Like, it's not one of the apps where I'm like, oh, I think you're going to have lots of success here. Cause
Yeah.
I just don't, I haven't found that's been the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Good. Well, I'm glad that we had that conversation because I think I get so many questions about that and
Yes.
people don't know like what to do. And I tell them about certain apps. They're like, I've never heard about Hind.
Yeah.
Well, girl,
Yeah,
get on it.
absolutely.
Let's
Yeah.
figure it
Do you
out.
get the, what's the best dating app? And I'm like, madam, there is no best dating app. You've just like, here's the top three. Here's
Yeah.
why I think they're good. go through them, right? I'm a big fan of like
It's
trying different ones like at different
exactly,
time periods, right? And just kind of seeing
exactly.
where you are, because
And
different people have
also,
different
there is
success.
no best dating app. It's how
Absolutely.
you use it. Just like if you
Absolutely.
go to the gym, there's not like a best exercise bike or
Yeah.
weight. It's all
Yeah.
in how you use it, how you work it,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, girl, work it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about, you have a part of your service where you are messaging for your clients, girl.
Hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like, and like what
Hmm.
sort of messages are your go-tos in terms of starting a conversation.
Well, so that particular service is called My Dating Doula. So that's like the full service VIP package that I offer to folks. And essentially, what I wanted, and it's so funny because like I remember when I first introduced it, people were like, "Aren't you just like a glorified catfish?" And I'm like, "No, how dare you?" So essentially what I do is like, if you, let's say you were a client of mine and you wanted the My Dating Doula service. And so what we do is we do like a 3 hour intake session where I really sit down and I get to know you. So we go through like an intake survey. We also do sort of like almost like a scoring exercise where I find out like what are the things that you're looking for in a partner, and not just like the physical stuff, like the real sort of deep, intangible, emotional things that are like really important to you and deal breakers and things like that. And then like we do sort of like I think it's very similar to what you described as like your funnel, right? Where it's like, okay, based on all this criteria that you said that you were looking for, what are some of the things that you want to know? Like, how do I, as like your dating doula, know when it's appropriate to move someone to the next stage, to let's say a
Mhm.
phone call or a video call and things like that. And so within the 3 hour intake session is when I really seriously sit down to get to know you. I want to make sure that like I even by listening to the way that you communicate, I'm able to sort of reflect that in the way that I write and communicate with people back and forth and things like that, right? And so once like you're all set up and things like that, you have the choice to, I can do the online dating for you in 30-day renewable intervals, or you can pay up to a full 90 days and we can do it like that. And then within that time, we do like either weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins depending on whatever your schedule and availability is. And so for me, one of the things like I'm a big advocate of like especially for my clients who are not so comfortable messaging first or not too comfortable on dating apps. I'm like is like I if I'm your dating doula, because there's like a less, I guess, like emotional tension or emotional, there's like a less emotional weight there. I'm
Yeah.
always like, I have no problem messaging people first on your behalf and things like that, right? And so that's something that I'll do. Very often I'll start with something simple. I always like try to um like talk about something in their profile. So whether it's something in their photo, or whether it's like something in their bio, or whether it's just like in response to a comment that they made on their profile, that's usually always sort of the first intro. Or sometimes if like they don't have anything to really grasp onto in their profile, I'll say something like, so for instance, like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like a lot of men, for some reason, do not smile in their dating profile photos. Like they're just
Yeah.
like scowling,
We're all
you
trying, they're
know,
all trying to be hard, girl.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, no, right? And so whenever I see like a man who fits sort of like my client's criteria and they're smiling, I always say, oh, hey, name, like you have a really beautiful smile. It's so rare to see men smiling on dating apps. That's like a common one that I use whenever I see somebody who kind of matches and is like, oh, this person's smiling and this person has a beautiful smile. Or I'll just say, hey, beautiful smile. But usually it's, I'm just reacting to something in the profile. And if
Yeah.
that's not the case, then I'll be like, great photos, or like I saw that you went here, and you know what I mean, like just something related to their profile. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like you're going for complimentary, nice. Do you ever go for, because I tell my clients, you can approach these men in however way you want to approach
Mm-hmm.
them. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if they're not smiling, I want them to be like, no smile in these pictures? Question
Yes.
mark
Yeah. I do that. I
emoji.
do that too.
Yeah,
I
okay.
do that too.
Yeah.
Where like
Because we
sometimes,
want to
and
tease them, because teasing is also flirting.
yeah, absolutely. So like in the instance where someone kind of has like, they're trying to like scowling, trying to look hard pictures,
Yeah.
I'll say something like, let's say the person's name is Mike, and be like, hey, Mike, you're so handsome. Like, it's a shame that you're not smiling in any of your photos, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just kind of like as an opener there, right? So like, I think where possible, my approach is mostly complimentary, but again, like
Yes.
if there's somebody that I find attractive, I don't think there's, especially like sometimes you can really gauge like a person's sense of humor based on what they've written in their profile, right? So I
Yes.
think it's really important to send an opening message or respond to a message based on like almost like matching the tone of the humor or the tone of their profile and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to lean in toward the more like poking
Yep.
because there's so many compliments out there.
Yes. Yes.
You break through the noise a bit
Yes.
and you like
Absolutely.
stand out when
Yeah.
like you kind of
Absolutely.
call these men out. So
Yeah.
I love
Absolutely.
yeah, so I
Absolutely.
love to
Or
like
like,
go that route too.
yeah, another one that I really love too is like often men will say things like, "Oh, like I'm really good at making this, or I can blah 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 barbecue, whatever." And like one a good opener is like, "Oh, I bet I could like bet you can't barbecue like me, or like
Mhm.
like bet you can't handle my secret hot sauce, or you know what I mean? Like just like to kind of like as an example of what you're talking about, right? Where you're just like, okay, sir, challenge
Let's
accepted.
do
Think
this.
you have yes, you have the best
Yes.
thing?
Have
No, I got
fun.
the
Be
best thing. Yes,
playful. Yes.
exactly, exactly.
What would you say for, because all these lazy men that we were talking about on these
Mhm.
ads will just give you like because men online date differently. They'll go through apps, they'll say hey to like 20, 30 women and see
Yep.
what comes back and then evaluate, right?
Yeah.
So what do you say for women that get these just like the heys or the hey beautifuls? What sort of
Mm.
responses should we be giving there?
Oh, I don't respond.
No respond at
I
all.
don't respond. I don't respond at all. Like, or sometimes what I'll do, so for instance, okay, I shouldn't say I don't respond. I will take a look at the profile, right? And if there's like if there's potential in the profile, if I see something where I'm just like, oh, like this person seems like kind and interesting, but clearly has no idea how to talk to women on online dating profile, I'll
Mhm.
respond with
Which
something
is
like,
possible, ladies. I just
yes,
want to let you know.
yes, absolutely.
Men are not great on the online dating
No,
tips.
no, they're
So you're
terrible.
gonna, yeah, so know that going into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would say is like, so for if you send me a hey or a hey beautiful, and I look at your profile and I'm just like, no, I will not
Hmm.
respond. But if I see something there, physical attraction or just some sort of depth in the profile, I'll say like, let's say again, we'll use Mike as an example. Just like, really, Mike? Hey, I'm like, your profile's so interesting, and all you got for me is hey. Like just
Yes,
as a way
love
to be
that.
like, do you know what I mean? Just like a gentle
Yes.
sort of way to be like, come on, Mike, you're better than
Do
this,
more. Do
Yeah,
more.
exactly, right?
Yes.
Again, like I always tell people like there's no pressure. You don't have to respond to everybody who messages you. That's not an obligation, right?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said about people not owing you anything. But I think it's really important that like you some people's haze are more valuable than other people's haze is what I would
Girl,
say. Look at the
yes.
profile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of these hays are wooden nickels and some
Yeah.
of these hays are $2 pieces,
Yes,
girl.
exactly. It's like, some of the haze are coming from men who are just like, I've never done this before. I'm not really good at this, but I'm going to try it, so they don't really know what they're doing. But again, you need to sort of like look at the profile and gauge whether or not this is someone that you might even be remotely interested in finding out a little bit more about, right? Now,
Yeah.
if you're writing like full sentences and the hey person's giving you yes, no, maybe like,
No.
then you're like, all right, okay, we're
No.
done. But
Yes,
give it a shot if you
exactly.
see something there that you potentially are interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. And I know that my listeners have absolutely loved this as well. So, for all of the people out there that need to get their online dating together and need to connect with you, girl, how
Yeah.
can they do it?
Okay, so the best way to get in touch with me, I'm most active on my Instagram, so it's at the dating doula, and I'm sure you'll have it in the show notes and
I
stuff like
sure
that.
I surely will.
Okay. And another really good way to get in touch with me is just through my website. So it's www.datingdoula.ca. Yeah, and those are pretty much the two best ways to get in touch with me. Like, I'm not going to lie, I'm one of these people where I'm just like, listen, let me just get a one social media. Like, I can't be out here on these TikToks and all
You
these,
can't be
you know
out
what I
here on
mean?
the internet streets,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, oh my gosh, no. Everyone's like, oh, get a TikTok. And I'm like, no, like, I'm
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Bridget, the dating doula, thank you so much for being here with me today. I have had so much fun, and I know that my listeners have received so much value. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, it's been great. Bye.
Bye.